Hello everyone. I believe you all are happy and well at your home. We have started the online classes as per the instructions by the school authority. So we were going with the chapter The Rise of Nationalism in Europe, and I believe you all would have understood this chapter. If not, then one more time we are going to start this chapter from the beginning, and some of the important and basic structure of this chapter we will discuss here. Already I have written some of the basic line about this chapter, and now first line you can see that no nation state mid 18th century 1750. So I would like to tell you about this. What was no nation state and what was nation state, and why it started in 18th century, I mean in 1750. So we need to go to in flashback that then we discussed about the French Revolution. I believe you must remember that the French society was divided into three categories: first state, second state, and third state. Likewise, in Europe there were three categories. In one category there were aristocracy, and second category there was peasantry, and third category there were the middle class. And that middle class actually started this nationalism, and the chapter we are discussing here is just because of this third category when they started thinking about nationalism. So how it happened we are going to discuss here. No nation state means in mid 18th century there was no nation state. Now, what is the meaning of meaning of nation state? We need to understand first of all. Nation state means like we have the example of Habsburg Empire here. I have written there. Habsburg Empire was consisted of two states or two countries, Austria and Hungary, and there was monarchy and aristocracy, autocracy. And this state was run by the same government like French government you would have heard about, the Louis XVI and all. The same here. Now people were thinking to stop this kind of the government, and they were thinking like the aristocracy, monarchy should be stopped, should be properly ended, and people should think about the democracy, people should think about the freedom, people should think about the equality and all. And now we need to understand what is the meaning of nation state. A nation state meaning is, I have written there that where common language is spoken by the people, and they should have the same history, and they should have the traditions, and the government should have the agreement with the people. They should not impose any kind of the duty or any kind of the restriction on them without any permission. Like in India we can have the best example. Our government cannot impose any kind of the restriction on us. If it is done, it is absolutely passed, and it is absolutely consented in the parliament, and the parliament where 545 and 245 people are sitting to take the decision on behalf of us. So any matter cannot be passed, any bill cannot be passed without our consent. So our country is a nation state because all the things which have been required in a nation state we are having. So in Europe we need to understand Europe. Already I told you that there were three categories of the people. One category was belonging to the aristocracy, and aristocracy was a category of the people or a group you can say who were having lots of privileges, and they were having the connection on the basis of the family. I mean they were connected with the family marriages, and they were the French speakers. They were land owning, lots of the property, lots of the lands of the Europe was being owned by this particular community. And it was not in big population. It was very less population of aristocracy, but they were ruling on entire Europe. The same you have heard and same you have discussed in the French Revolution. The same I am telling here. So aristocracy was a particular group which was having lots of privileges and lots of right. Now people who were in the second category, they were the peasantry. Now these peasantry did not have their own lands. Some of the peasantry had their own lands, but that was not enough. That was not enough and or adequate for their own agriculture, for their own livelihood. So they had to depend on the lands of the aristocracy. So these people who were belonging to the agriculture, they used to cultivate their lands, and they were depend on these people, aristocracy. Okay, so these were the people who were not very much poor, but somewhere they were running in their life with the small livelihood, with the small wages, with the little wages. Now the third category we should discuss, that category was the middle class. Now these were the middle class people who actually depend on the aristocracy, and those who had little bit, you can say, or small fields or small land they had, but anyhow they could grow from the peasantry community. They could run their life in better position, and they started thinking about the country and about the government. These were the people who actually came out from the peasantry and made their own separate group, and they were called the middle class. These were the class people who actually came out from the peasantry, those who actually rose their livelihood, or also they changed their lifestyle, and now they started thinking about the the culture of the country and about the condition of the country, that they also should be having the powers and authority to run the government, to take the country's administration and all. So this particular middle class actually started thinking about the nationalism. Now these are the people who thought about there should be freedom, there should be equality, freedom of individual, equality for everyone, and there should be one very important thing be done, that is end of autocracy, and there should be democracy, and there should be privilege. As you all know about, after the death of Napoleon Bonaparte in 1818, now the people of France actually started one more thing, and that was the power of conservatives. Conservative actually took the powers in their hands, and one more time they brought France in aristocracy, or you can say monarchy. One more time France was brought into monarchy, because these were the people who actually were the thinker of monarchy, and those who wanted to bring one more time back the monarchy in the country. So this middle class actually started thinking about that they should have the power to run the country. These are the people who actually came out from the peasantry, those who became doctors, those who became teachers, lawyers, professors, and those who became little bit capitalist in the country. So these people started thinking about the nationalism. Now we are going to start from the book. In 1848, Frederic Sorio, a French artist, prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republic, as he called them. So this picture has been made by Frederic Sorio, as you discuss in this chapter, and what actually he discussed here in this chapter is the absolutist institutions in this picture. Absolutist institutions means the institutions which were based on monarchy, which were based on absolute dictators, absolute monarch. Means whatever the decision they had to take, they took the decision without any kind of the help of or any support from anywhere from the countrymen. They used to take the decision by their own without any advice or any suggestion. So this picture Frederic Sorio made, where all the absolute institutions are in the picture and they are falling one by one, and people are running towards the Statue of Liberty, where people are thinking that all people are equal in the eyes of Constitution, and everybody can seek the justice, and everybody is equal in the eyes of the Constitution. Everyone is equal in the eyes of Constitution. There is freedom, there is equality, there is liberty. No one is slave, no one is bothered by anyone. So this kind of the thought people started thinking. In this chapter, the French Revolution and the idea of the nation also is here in this book. So we can also discuss some of the basic point about this chapter. The French Revolution and the idea of the nation, what actually happened. The idea of the nation actually started very first time in this world from the French Revolution, which actually erupted in 1789, and people of France thinking seriously that the idea of the nation should be there when we are going to fight against the monarchy. And first time in 1789, the people of France thought seriously that there should be idea of nation. Idea of nation means a country where all the people are equal, a country where all the people are liberal, government is liberal, and people have right to ask a question, and people can choose their government, the government which is accountable for the people and for the development of the people. So this kind of the thought people started thinking seriously, and then we can discuss here some of the basic other points of this chapter, because already I discussed this chapter in the class, so I am just rushing the revision. The making of nationalism in Europe. Okay, the making of nationalism in Europe. Already we have discussed what was the reason of nationalism in Europe, and we discussed the nationalism in India. When we first time discussed nationalism in Europe, I told you that the people of India were completely filled with the feeling of nationalism when they came to know that their culture, their religion, their tradition, their customs have no value in the eyes of the Britishers. Then first time they actually came to know the feeling of nationalism. The same thing happened in the Europe. When people started thinking about nationalism in Europe, means the countries of Europe were divided into different kind of the diversity and different kind of the languages. Now people started thinking that one country should be called a nation which has the same language, a country which has the same tradition and culture. Because at that time people from different countries used to migrate from different countries and used to stay in other country. Like in Russia, the people from Scotland, Scottish, German, and French were living there, and that is why there was no particular unity you can see at that time in Russia. In many countries, it was happening. So the first time in Europe, people started thinking about the nationalism. They thought about the national integrity, which was completely based on the dignity of the people, the values of the people. Now, the aristocracy and the new middle class already we have discussed. Now, the second point is what did liberal nationalism stand for? What is the meaning of liberal nationalism? Liberal nationalism means that the government should be liberal for the welfare of the people, for the progress of the people. We can take some line from this chapter, from this paragraph. Ideas of national unity in early 19th century Europe were closely allied to the ideology of liberalism. The term liberalism derives from the Latin root liber, meaning free. For the new middle class, liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. Politically, it emphasized the concept of government by consent. Since the French Revolution, liberalism had stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges, and a constitution and representative government through parliament. 19th century liberals also stressed the inviolability of private property. Yes, it was the most important right which was provided to the people of France at that time, and then people of Europe started thinking seriously about that the right of property should be given to everyone. In 1804, when Napoleon Bonaparte became the Emperor of France, he started some reforms, and one of the reforms was that everybody will be having the right to property. It means earlier everyone was not having the right to property. Like some of the people could have purchased the property, but now everybody was equal in the eyes of Constitution, and the person who were having the property was deserving to give the to deserving to cast the vote, and that is why this right was so much important. And liberalism means here, I must tell you that people thinking seriously that liberalism means like the government should be liberal, and the government should take the decision by the consent of the people, and they should emphasize politically and socially on the people of the country where, who they are living in the country. So the French Revolution actually discussed seriously and also emphasized seriously on the liberalism, and first time discussed the end of the autocracy, the end of the monarchy, and the privileges which were given to the first and second state. Then after Europe also thought seriously that these privileges should be ended up, and the right to property and other rights should be given to the people of Europe. So French Revolution in true manner we can say that actually started a milestone work. Yet, equality before the law did not necessarily stand for universal suffrage. Yes, universal suffrage. The first point, which was discussed seriously by all the people, that universal suffrage means everyone should have the right to vote. But during the French Revolution, some clubs were established. Jacobin Club was the main club there, and these clubs actually did not pass the bill or did not pass the law which was in the favor of the women, like the women who were not 25 or those who were not having the right to property, they were not given the right to vote. But in this case, only men were allowed to cast their vote. Only those men who were crossing the age of 25 and those who were having the property. Then those who were having the uh, right to provide the taxes to the government equal to the three wages of the person, like a person who was having uh, the person who was giving the tax equal to the three wages was only authorized to provide to cast the vote. Otherwise, women were not allowed to cast their vote anyhow, whether they were 25 or whether they were having property. They were not having any right to cast their vote. So universal suffrage was not provided to the women. In some of the state, people thought seriously that the women who were 25 or those who were having little bit property, they should have been giving the right to property, but that decision was not taken in favor of them. In this chapter, we can understand about some of the important revolutionary activities which actually started in Europe after the 1830, because the entire Europe was burning with a kind of a new feeling of nationalism, and every country wanted to establish itself as a nation state. So, in new conservation after 1815, we can understand here from this paragraph. Following the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, European governments were driven by a spirit of conservatism. Conservatism believed that established traditional institutions of the state and society, like the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, property, and the family, should be preserved. As I told you earlier, these are the people who actually were in the favor of the monarchy, those who wanted to re-establish the monarchy. And that is why in coming time, Louis Philippe, a person who was a relative of Louis XVI, was established, or you can say was installed by the people of conservatism, those who believe in conservatism, and established him as a ruler of France for some time. But somewhere it was against the system of liberty, somewhere it was against the system of individuality, somewhere it was against the system of freedom and unity and equality and democracy. So some of the group were in the favor and some of the group were against of this kind of the change. Most conservatives, however, did not propose a return to the society of pre revolutionary days. Rather, they realized from the changes initiated by Napoleon that modernization could, in fact, strengthen traditional institutions like the monarchy. It could make state power more effective and strong. A modern army, an efficient bureaucracy, a dynamic economy, the abolition of feudalism, and serfdom could strengthen the autocratic monarchies of Europe. Yes, it was a best idea that some of the thinkers thought that the institution should be given more powers, democracy should be strengthened, and bureaucracy should be given more power, and the modernization of the country should be on priority. But somewhere after 1815, this was not easy to conduct all these things in proper manner. In 1815, representatives of the European powers, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, who had collectively defeated Napoleon, met at Vienna to draw up a settlement of Europe. Now, we need to understand the concept of Vienna meeting or Vienna Congress. In Vienna, the capital of Austria, the meeting held just because the people who were defeated badly by Napoleon, now they wanted to settle their boundaries with the other countries. They wanted to separate their boundaries with the other countries. What happened in the past after the defeat of after the victory of Napoleon Bonaparte on them. So now they wanted to settle, and that is why Vienna Congress actually scheduled to take the decision. The Congress was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. This is important question. It can be asked in your examination who conducted the meeting of Vienna. So you can say Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Okay, I believe you are getting this seriously and you are understanding this chapter properly. Now, I think we discussed till the age of revolutions. So I am starting from here, the age of revolution, 1830, 1848. A conservative regimes tried to consolidate their power. Liberalism and nationalism came to be increasingly associated with revolution in many regions of Europe, such as the Italian and German states, the provinces of the Ottoman Empire, Ireland and Poland. These revolutions were led by the liberal nationalists belonging to the educated middle class elite, among whom were professors, school teachers, clerks and members, etc. etc. So you can understand, I believe this language is very simple. The first upheaval took place in France in July 1830. Again, France is coming on first position. The first upheaval, what happened? In 1830, the Bourbon king, who had been restored to power during the conservative reaction after 1815, were now overthrown by liberal revolutionaries who installed a constitutional monarchy with Louis Philippe at its head. Now, these liberals who wanted to establish Europe in the liberalism, the people who wanted to establish democracy and the rights, they want those who wanted to preserve the rights of the individual. Now, what happened in 1830? The Bourbon kings, who was Bourbon king? Louis Philippe. He was installed there as the head of the government. Now he was overthrown by the liberal revolutionaries, and those who did not like him, they one more time wanted to establish democracy, as happened in 1789 French Revolution. Okay, so one line is very much important here. Why I am telling you, when France sneezes, Metternich once remarked. What he said, he meant to say that when France sneezes, the entire rest of Europe catches cold. It was the impact of France, whatever it used to do. The entire Europe, the rest of the European countries used to copy the same. And we have the example in 1789, the first revolution occurred, and again the first upheaval took place in France in July 1830, which was against the conservatism, and they overthrown the liberal, they overthrown the conservatives against the liberalism, and Louis Philippe was overthrown by the liberalism. So you can understand here easily. An event that mobilized nationalist feeling among the educated elite across Europe was the Greek War of Independence. Greeks had been part of Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. Okay, the growth of revolutionary nationalism in Europe sparked off a struggle for independence among the Greeks, which began in 1821.